you guys all had a good Christmas and a good New Year's. So tonight I'm going to be doing another Japanese true crime case. Before I get started, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It would really help me out with the whole YouTube algorithm and with getting more people to be able to see my videos. So this case is the murder of Yuko Ishibashi, otherwise known in Japan, they named it the Chiba Girls Tombstone bludgeoning incident, or Chiba Shoujo Hakaishi Bokusatsu Jiken. Chiba Shoujo Hakaishi Bokusatsu Jiken. So, Yuko Ishibashi was born in 1986 in Chiba Prefecture of Japan. She lived with her parents, her younger sister, and her brother, and she was smart and athletic, getting good grades in school and playing on the girls' handball team, up until middle school pretty much. Outside of school, she spent her time studying, hanging out with friends from the team, and practicing handball every day. As she got older, though, she decided to quit the handball team, and she started hanging out with a group of people who were on the rougher side. She also started working at, she wanted to work at a hostess club, which, you know, is where men pay to get drunk and hang out with pretty girls. And the girls' job is to flatter them as much as possible and get them to buy as much alcohol as possible. And, you know, they just generally, like, flirt with the men and make them feel special and all that. The catch was that you have to be 18 to work at one of those, and she was not. So, the article that I read this in said that she was working as a hostess, but then later on it said she was working in a karaoke bar, or like a karaoke club, so I'm not really sure which one it was, but either way, she got some kind of job like that, and her parents found out that she was working that kind of job and forced her to quit. So she ran away from home and got jobs at various girl bar, karaoke bar type places. But her parents tracked her down again, and they sent her to a reform school with the hope that she would get her life back on track and enroll in high school and finish out her education. When she was in high school, though, she kept associating with the wrong crowd, and she eventually got expelled for absenteeism. At that point, she ran away again and started living with friends where her parents couldn't find her. She found a friend through a mutual acquaintance to live with, and she and that friend both worked at the same hostess club as well. Or, well, not hostess club because she was underage, but some sort of hostess adjacent club. I don't really know. The friend had a boyfriend named Hironobu Suzuki, who started living with them, and the three of them got close. Basically, Hironobu was with the friend, but he started talking to Yuko, and basically it ended up being that he was kind of like dating both girls at the same time. So that was until Hironobu's girlfriend got pregnant, and Hironobu decided he didn't want anything to do with her or their baby, so she got an abortion and she left him, leaving Yuko arrested for stealing a car and stealing money from the convenience store that he used to work at. He got sent to a juvenile detention center for a short time, and when he was released, he got married to a girl who he'd gotten pregnant at some point, and she gave birth to their baby. It wasn't a good relationship, though, and it'd be revealed in court later that there was domestic violence in that relationship, one instance of which included Hironobu beating his wife with a wooden stick. So they got divorced, and Hironobu quickly started dating another woman, the one who would become Yuko's roommate. Hironobu's marriage had caused him to acquire a lot of debt for one reason or another, and he'd taken out a lot of loans in his name as well. And like I said earlier, Hironobu was basically dating both Yuko and the roommate, but he wasn't just doing it on a whim. Yuko was young and alone, and she needed a better job to support herself. So Hironobu decided that they could both use each other. If Hironobu got her to marry him, he could legally take her last name, and that would allow him to escape the debt collectors and start over. He offered her a job in exchange, telling her that since she was too young to be able to work more than part-time at hostess bars, or at hostess bars at all, really. If they got married, she would be seen as an adult legally, and could therefore get a job at a better hostess club and make more money. I don't know how that works, but I guess it did. Hironobu had some connections to hostess clubs apparently, so he could get her a job at one, and I guess they would overlook the fact that she was 16. She agreed, and they went to City Hall and got married in July 2003, and Hironobu successfully changed his last name from Suzuki to Ishibashi. Even though they gotten married, they didn't love each other at all, and they quickly realized that even more than just not being in love, they actually couldn't stand each other. Yuko moved out, so Hironobu was on his own at the apartment, and even worse, despite the new name, he was still having trouble with the law and with his past credit card fraud issues, meaning that he needed to keep his record clean to stay off the police's radar. So, to make enough money to support himself, he demanded that Yuko pay him a marriage fee for helping her out. She agreed and paid it for a while, but then she decided that she didn't want to anymore, and she threatened to go to the police and tell them that she'd been forced into a fake marriage by him. Hironobu was basically on parole, so if any charges came up against him, with his record he might end up back in jail pretty much right away. So he decided the best way to deal with the issue was just kill Yuko, and he came up with what he thought would be a perfect plan. On September 30th, 2003, only 3 months after his and Yuko's marriage had started, he called her and said he wanted to talk to her about something, offering to pick her up from work after she got off. A few days later, on October 1st, Hironobu picked her up at 2:30 a.m. from the club she worked at and drove her to a cemetery parking lot, where 4 high school boys that Hironobu was friends with and who he'd committed crimes with were lying in wait for them. Faced with all the evidence against him, Hironobu finally admitted to having killed Yuko, and he was arrested and charged with murder. By February 2005, all 5 of them were convicted. 3 of the 4 high school boys who'd participated were charged with murder and destruction of a body, and they were sent to a juvenile prison for 5 to 10 years. Kind of a light sentence. One of the boys was found to not have participated in the beating or destruction of Yuko's body, so he was only sentenced to 3 to 5 years. Hironobu was charged with murder and destruction of a body, and during his trial at the Chiba District Court, it was stated by the court that, quote, the assault on Yuko Ishibashi was unimaginably cruel, the motive was selfish and extremely childish, and it's impossible for Hironobu Ishibashi to be corrected. And so, he was sentenced to life in prison, thankfully. And I have those quotes in Japanese, which are, Ishibashi Yuko-san no boko wa souzou zatsuru sankyakusa. Doki wa shiko jushin teki de yochiki wa marinai. And Ishibashi Hironobu no kyosei wa fukano. Hironobu appealed the sentence, but then he withdrew his appeal for whatever reason. So the sentence was finalized, and to this day, as far as I know, he's still serving his time in jail. After his conviction, Yuko's parents filed a lawsuit asking for her and Hironobu's marriage to be recognized as invalid. The Chiba District Court approved the lawsuit, and Hironobu's last name reverted back to Suzuki again. Unlike Hironobu, though, by now the 4 boys who participated are all free and back in society, for better or worse, but at least Hironobu won't be seeing the outside of a jail cell ever again. Hopefully. So yeah, this was a pretty short case, but I thought it was interesting.